There's a lot of talk about this upcoming season, but I do genuinely believe the Atlanta Falcons will be a good football team. Now, I've thought that going into literally every season since 2017, but this time is different, right? Right. Now, a lot has changed, so let's recap. We fired Arthur Smith and brought in head coach Raheem Morris. And he brought in defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake, who was the former assistant coach with the Rams, offensive coordinator Zach Robinson, who was the passing game coordinator for the Rams, and he kept on special teams coordinator Marquise Williams. We also went out and paid Kirk Cousins a lot of money and then turned around and drafted a quarterback at number 8 in the draft. But we also went out there and got some receivers and got rid of Desmond Ridder, which is the biggest win. So now, with Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, Jesse Bates III, AJ Terrell, Grady Jarrett, Ronald Moore, Darnell Mooney, Caleb McGarry, Ray McLeod, and Younghoe Koo, maybe we can be first-round exits in the playoffs. But let's take a deeper look at our 2024 schedule. We start off week 1 with a really spicy one. The Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the most annoying fan bases in the NFL, will make the trip to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and with them comes the return of Arthur Smith, possibly the most overrated offensive coordinator and worst Falcons head coach of all time. I'm exaggerating, of course, unless I'm not. This will for sure be the talk of the town. Can Arthur Smith get revenge on his old team? Can Kirk Cousins perform in his first game as a Falcon? A lot of questions, but I do think Atlanta gets the win. Now, this will be a close one. Pittsburgh is always a sneaky good team, and you can never quite count them out, but I do think they have a lot of questions to answer. Russell Wilson, who isn't a bad quarterback but isn't great anymore, is adjusting to a new offensive scheme, and Arthur Smith is just a bad play caller. He was decent in Tennessee, yes, but it's easy to be good when Derrick Henry is your running back. I don't think the Steelers will have enough to come out on top, but I do think it'll be a close game. I'm saying 24-21. The Falcons will take the Week 1 win, and Atlanta will elect Kirk Cousins as mayor. Now, here's where things get tricky. We have 2 very difficult back-to-back games. In Week 2, we travel to Philadelphia for a Monday night game. And I'm going to cut to the chase. I don't believe the Falcons win this game. The Eagles are a very good football team and have started the last 2 seasons on a 5-0 run, as they always do really well at the beginning of the season. I think Atlanta struggles and they fall short, maybe 31-21. Atlanta then calls for Kirk Cousins to be benched despite throwing only 1 interception. That was Darnell Mooney's fault. And then we take on the reigning Super Bowl champions and possibly the best quarterback to ever play the game. The good thing is we play them in Atlanta, and we do have a bit of an advantage there. Also, the Chiefs aren't necessarily like the best regular season team. They're resilient, but they're beatable. We're just probably not going to beat them. I say we come close, but ultimately come up short, 27-23. Atlanta eggs Kirk Cousins' house and wants Raheem Morris fired. And now here is where we find our identity. Back at home against our biggest rivals, the Saints will probably be not very good this year, and I think Atlanta is going to come back with a vengeance after the last game these 2 teams played. The Falcons will beat the brakes off of the Saints. I'm saying final score 38-10. Atlanta kisses Kirk Cousins on the forehead, and all is good in Flowery Branch. And then we've got a really interesting one. We take on a Thursday night game against Tampa Bay. Now, again, this is in Atlanta, so there's the advantage. However, there's less prep time than a usual game because it's on Thursday. I do see Atlanta struggling a bit here, especially considering Kirk Cousins is not known for his ability to win Thursday night football games. But I think Atlanta comes out with a win, very close, maybe even a Younghoe Koo last-second field goal. I'm going 26-24. Atlanta is back on track. And then we travel to Carolina to play the Panthers, and I think this game isn't even close. 100-0, Atlanta wins. Moving on. Seattle could be a really interesting game, but I do think Atlanta comes out on top. Mike Macdonald is a good coach, and I think he'll be successful with Seattle in the future, but it'll take some time for him to get his bearings. I think Atlanta playing in Atlanta is going to be difficult for the Seahawks to overcome. Give me Atlanta 31-17. Now at this point, Atlanta would be 5-2, but you might hate my next few predictions. I think the Falcons will hit a mid-season slump, and it starts with a trip to Tampa Bay. This has been a solid team for the past couple of years, even outside of the Brady administration. I think Atlanta will struggle and barely hang on, but will fall in the end, let's say 35-31. And then I think we lose to Dallas. The Cowboys, sadly, are pretty good every year now, and we're not playing them in the playoffs. I think Dallas gets a solid win over Atlanta, maybe something like 34-21, and fans will start writing death threats to Raheem Morris. And then tragically, I think the Saints get the best of us in Week 10. The interesting thing about this rivalry is that it doesn't matter what kind of season either team is having. I always believe this game will be completely equal just simply because of the atmosphere around it. But I do think the Saints sneak past Atlanta here in last-second fashion, maybe 31-30. However, before we go into the bye week, I think the Falcons get back on top and dominate a struggling Denver team. Between Jared Stidham or Zach Wilson or Bo Nix, the Broncos offense won't be able to move very well against an Atlanta defense that will continuously improve as the season progresses. This will be the game that Atlanta fans are able to catch their breath and look forward to the rest of the season. I say the Falcons defeat the Broncos 37-16. So we go into the bye week 6-5, which isn't great, but Atlanta usually does decently in the back half of the season. And with a solid beginning and a really easy schedule to end with, they can turn it around very quickly. We come back from the bye week and we're visited by a talented Chargers team, but I think LA will still be trying to figure some things out and won't be able to overcome the thriving Atlanta offense and dominant Atlanta defense. Jim Harbaugh will eventually have this team playoff ready. I just don't think it's this year, but it'll be close. That LA offense has potential to be really, really good, but give me Atlanta 28-25. And then, oh man, the Falcons go to Minnesota and Kirk Cousins returns to his old stomping grounds. I do think Atlanta loses this game. Now, I don't think the Vikings are the better football team, but there's something about the vibe of this game that just makes me think Atlanta is going to struggle. But truthfully, this game is hard to predict. I'm going to say the Vikings win something like 17-14, but who knows? Atlanta might really dominate them, but for now, give me the Vikings. And then we'd enter our final 4 games with a record of 7-6, and I think this will be a glorious 4-game stretch. They'll visit Las Vegas on a Monday night, and I think get a convincing win. The Raiders will be solid in coming seasons, but they'll need to address the quarterback issue first, so until then, give me Atlanta 38-17. And then the Giants come to town, and it isn't going to be close. Give me Atlanta 35-10. After that, Atlanta travels to Washington to take on their former coach, Dan Quinn. I did actually like Dan Quinn until the Super Bowl. I think Washington can be good. I don't think they will be good. I love Jaden Daniels and wanted him to be a Falcon, but he's young and kind of small. Give me Atlanta 27-7. And then thank the heavens we end the season with the Panthers at home. Again, it isn't going to be close. Atlanta by 100. And that would put us at an 11-6 record and more than likely winning the division. I don't think we'll secure the number 1 seed in the playoffs, but I do think Atlanta has all of the potential in the world to make a deep playoff run. Can they do it? Will they do it? I have no clue. But let's hope for the best, and maybe, just maybe, the Atlanta Falcons will finally start competing again.